So good morning everyone, I hope everyone's doing well. This is a kind of cold Tuesday in late June in Scotland. So started the work this morning to do some verticutting and thin out the grass a little bit. I've noticed a few along these edges here, I've noticed a few things like poor heads growing in the lawn. So what I'm doing here is I'm using the verticutter inside this. Well, actually, this is not the verticutter. This is the grooming cartridge in the Allett. So these blades that are in here are much closer together than the standard verticutter. So it's more intense across the sward, and you can see it really creates quite lovely stripes on the grass as a result. More vivid, I would say, than even the standard cutting blade. It's set on the lawnmower at 0 at the moment, so it's combing through the grass, just the canopy of the surface of the grass, and what you can see is it pulls out some dead material from the sward, and it also pulls out the side shoots, so it stands everything up inside the grass. And then what I'll be able to do is, see over there, got the cutting blade in. Once I've done a verticut or groom across the surface of the grass, I'll then come across and cut it and take off all those tips that have now been stood up by the verticutter. You can actually see the comb lines through the grass. It's really quite pronounced. So I'm going to continue on with that, and then I'll bring you back before I then switch over to the other cartridge and do the next part of the work. So this is what happens after you've done your verticut. You end up with lovely looking lawn. Yes, I know the stripes don't line up there. Yep. But you can see it does cultivate quite intensely, so things that might have been a little bit thin will be even thinner. But this is really good for your grass. This is not something you need to be scared of. I thought, the first time I did this with this guy, I thought, oh no, this is going to destroy the grass, but actually it makes such a huge difference. And for example, if you look down here, it's kind of difficult to see, but that's a poa head here, annual meadow grass, and it stood it right up because that was lying flat down in the sward. So by verticutting, it's brought this lovely little guy up here, which means when I switch to the cartridge to cut, I will be able to nip off all those heads and hopefully prevent things from progressing. There's a little clump more here, just in here. So you've got one here and one over here, one there, a couple down here. So these have all been pulled up by the verticutting action, and you can see it's not done any damage to the soil. We haven't even touched the soil, but we have pulled up a lot of material. I've pulled up half of my green bin of material, and it leaves a really nice pattern on the grass. As you can see, you can only really see it from a certain direction of where the light is. It's early morning, so this is the best time to get out and really do things, but you can see it's looking good. Nice cuts. I got these planted yesterday, so a couple of nice dahlias here, and then this guy in the middle, which is really quite lovely, in a new pot as well. So we had these two existing pots, and we've got this new pot as well, so this is quite nice. We bought this from a local garden centre for a really good price, about £40 UK, and it's got a 10-year guarantee on it, which is nice. And then we potted this guy in. We used a combination of topsoil, compost, and fish bone and blood fertiliser, which for dahlias is like kind of Popeye with these, amazing food that kind of gets them strong. So we can see there's a new flower opening up here, and we've also put in a support down here as well, which will help it in the wind, because the wind comes from this direction over behind me and blows against this on a regular basis. So without this support, this flower would probably snap, so this is a good thing for it. We can see over here the lupins looking really nice, starting to just taper off a little bit, but this is what happens with lupins. They tend to grow right to the top, and then they start dying from the bottom up. So when you start to see some sort of degradation of the leaf and the flower, you can snip that off, and that will encourage the flower and the plant to produce more of these lovely flowers. You can also see blueberries coming up, starting to look really nice. This is really intense across everything, starting to look really good. This is going to produce lots and lots of lovely flowers throughout the year, and lovely berries. And just want to say thanks to everyone that's left likes for the garden. This is kind of something that we were trying new this year, and the foxgloves have just completely taken over. But that's not a bad thing, because look at what you end up with here. You just end up with such a lovely sea of colour, and it's all sort of pinks and whites, which is very, very beautiful to look at. What we're going to do next year is we're going to attach posts on either side of this flower bed, this sleeper flower bed, and then we're going to build a trellis along the back to provide support for these guys as they grow, and that should help to keep them all straight and support them in the wind. So also got over here, as I was saying, clematis. Lots and lots of nice healthy flowers and buds coming on this one. We've got some dahlias down here as well, looking a bit sorry for themselves, but I do need to do some feeding on those, and that should encourage a little bit more growth. Some lovely, lovely flowers here, as you can see on the hanging baskets, looking very nice. Over here as well, looking really, really pretty. Nice colour combinations. Got a new rose here. This is climbing rose, so that's going to come up here, and you can see the beautiful flowers that it's producing, even as a brand new plant to the garden. So we haven't done roses in a long time, because we always shied away from roses because they do require a lot of maintenance, but we thought we'd give it a try this year, so that's going to be a nice welcome addition. We've got this lovely clematis here. Now this guy here, look at how fragile this thing is. This is the one of two that are coming out of the at the base of the flower and the plant, and it's going all the way up to the top here already. It's so delicate, such a beautiful thing, as you can see here. Really, really pretty, and the bees love it, and we don't need much support for this. This guy sort of self-supports himself, so that's really nice. We've got the other hanging baskets here, very similar across here, looking really nice. This guy in particular, look at this one here, this is lovely. So these are all variations of trailing plants in here, so just need to come in and deadhead some of these and just encourage some new growth. As you can see, I love dahlias, the clematis, another dahlia down here. This is a hebe, and these are clematis. This one here is a jasmine, so that climbs quite far. It's self-supporting, so it kind of goes and grows up itself. I've got my laburnum tree over here. When this was in, it was basically down at that height 2 and a bit years ago, so that's all the growth we've had in just over 2 years. The only thing about laburnums is the big plumes of yellow that you have, they don't tend to happen until 2 to 4 years after you plant it. It's establishing itself, it's building that strong root system, and then it will start producing the lovely sort of plumes. We did get a few this year, but nothing like some of our neighbours. We've got neighbours that have got mature laburnums, and they are spectacular when they come out, but they're like 10-15 years old. So over on this bed we've got, this is a sort of dwarf hydrangea, and then we've got the hydrangea, the main one. So this one is going to move over probably behind here, for example, and we're going to start building that bed out over here. So this is like the nursery, and this is like the bed that happens over here. This here came from our neighbour, and it's a round tree. We planted this about in the ground. We had it since last year. It was in a tiny pot, and it was just a twig basically. But we planted this about 8 weeks ago, and this is the growth that it's had in 8 weeks. It's just incredible. We had a rowan tree in our previous house, and unfortunately the owners wouldn't let us take it, even though that they said they would. So we're growing this in sort of memory of that tree, and that will become a sort of a staple in our garden as it comes through. But we can see in the hydrangeas we're starting to see the flowers appearing, so this is going to be nice. These are all going to turn into flowers. Every single one of these will be a bud for a flower, so beautiful across the board. And then we've got various shrubs along this bank. This used to be quite a horrible weeded bank, so this was all done last year. We still have to do a little bit of dressing here. Just let the neighbour go past. So we have to do a bit of dressing along here and adding some more bark in. But you can see it's lovely. It's coming on. We've got a new plant for here. So this is Salvia hot lips. We've got one in the front garden. I'm going to plant that here, and that will probably take a couple of years, but it'll be enormous in a few years' time, which is really, really nice. But this is what the lawn is, so I'm going to get the cut on at the moment. So what you've got to think is, if you look here, this layer down here was where the grass was originally, and we've added this top sort of 2 inches to level all of this out. So this was, if you look back in some of my shorts, this was pretty much bare about 4 weeks ago, so it's really came through on its own. And the more that you do these cultivations to your lawn, the better it becomes. It's kind of counterintuitive in some cases, because you think, oh my god, I've destroyed my lawn by doing these cultivations, but think about it as like a haircut, right? So you go to the hairdresser, and maybe at the start of the year you get a number 1 if you're a man, and that number 1 sort of scalps you down, ready for your hair to grow in and thicken up a little bit. It's the same with grass as well. If you do a number 1 or you scalp the lawn, you do that at the start of the season, and then you let the lawn grow through. You add some products and everything to encourage the lawn to recover. You water it, you do all that kind of good stuff, and that encourages all the growth. But sometimes it can come back too thick, so you then need to buy a verticutter to open the sward up, let that air flow through the sward, stand up undesirables and make sure that you can trim them out of your grass. And then you've got other things like scarifiers, and you've got hollow tine aerators that open up the grass and take plugs out, which I did early in the year. That was my biggest short so far. I got about 10,000 views for that, over 10,000 views, which was great. But that's taking plugs about this size out of your grass to help get water down and nutrients, but it also relieves compaction in your lawn. And then the verticutting, or the grooming that I'm doing here, that verticut is like when you're in the hairdresser, they use those sort of thinning scissors that you might have in your hair. Sometimes it tugs away at your hair. It feels a bit sore at the start and uncomfortable, but that's really good for your hair. It's just as good for the grass as well. So I'm going to switch over to the cutting cartridge over here, and then I'm going to take off all the stuff that's now been stood up, and I'm going to cut this at 23mm, which is where I'm stopping for this year. I'm going to keep it at 23mm, being that it's rye. Last year this was a rye fescue mix, and then I overseeded this year with a pure rye mix, so I get reasonable top growth, but it's got 40% creeping variety of rye in it, so I really do need to use this every couple of weeks in the lawn to maintain it, and then keep on top of that top growth, and continue on for the rest of the year. So this is the back lawn. I'll be doing the front lawn later on. I'll bring you back for that one as well, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the garden, what we're doing, the plants we have, and just everything. I'll talk about the watering that I'm using this year. I'm going to be deploying a hose round the perimeter using MDPE piping to make the watering a bit easier for us, because we're pulling these sort of 50-metre hoses across the garden. Over here we've actually got an upgraded hose connection this year that we got a plumber to do, so that's now mains pressure watering, which is great. And the rest of the lovely shrubs that we've got at the front here, which are looking great, and my funny long grass that's here. This was sprayed with the same stuff that I sprayed on this a couple of days ago, and I got a massive growth spurt, so it's huge. So yeah, I'm just going to keep going, and I'll then bring you back once I've done some cutting, or I might take you on the journey once I've started the cutting. So there we go. And so this is it cut. You can see it's looking a wee bit brown in some areas, but that's okay. For the most part, this is what you can end up with. This is the first real intensive cultivation I've done this year on this lawn, and it just dials it up a level. As you can see, it just gives the grass, it gives the lawnmower the ability to really cut into the grass properly, without having all that sort of thick material in the way to get a clean cut. Yeah, it's a wee bit thin there, but a wee bit of feed and watering and everything like that. Good old Scottish weather will help us with that, but this is what you can achieve. So I verticutted in this direction, and I've cut in this direction with the lawnmower, and that's really what it dials up to be. As you can see, pretty much every single seed head that I saw in the ground, bar a few, just here, some here, but you just pull them out by hand. They just don't like it. That intense cultivation, it doesn't really like it, that. So you can just pull that out, and then that'll grow over itself without too much bother, which is nice. Quite pleased with that. And the odd wee head knocking about there, just there, for example, but this is pretty much just a pick up anything you see when it's been cut like this, and you can see it looks really nice. Once I get a feed on this, I can then intensify these stripes a lot more, but in general it's looking lovely. There is, picked some weeds out of there and over here and over there yesterday. I can just fill those in with soil and they'll grow over with the creeping variety of rye I've got in here, but you can see this is what you can kind of achieve. Need to go around and do my edges, but this is coming, weather, so I need to get the front done so that they all have a sort of equal balance. But I would say I'm quite happy with that, and a wee bit more feeding, nitrogen feed, etc. We'll get that greened up again in the next few weeks with the good old British rain as well. But I'll show you the front. Take my cartridge with me as well while I'm doing that. So yeah, you can see a wee bit of browning, but that's okay. So there's the drummer cartridge. It's very loads and loads of blades in here. It's quite heavy. It's about 12 kilos or so. Got my pipe going around, a 50-metre pipe going all the way around the front to water, and I need to tidy up this bit here. Just a lot of stuff. That's the grass. That grass is grown here, so I need to go around and spray some of that and weed it and things like that. But this is the front one. As you can see, I'm going to be verticutting this now to thin it out, get a nice stripe on, and got the dahlias around here looking really nice. Watered this the other day and it's just popped out. Just need to do some deadheading. You can see the grass looking alright. Looking nice and green and dense. That isn't altered at all, that's just as it is. Hot lips up the top. So I'm going to get cracking, and I'll catch you at the end of this. Cheers. So everyone, that's the grass edged now. Finished off the day. Everything looking really nice and sweet. As we can see, it's looking really healthy across the board, and really pleased with how the verticut action has really cultivated down into the sward to make it look fantastic. So I'm really pleased overall with everything. As we can see, it's all looking really good. Neat edges, nothing beats a neat edge in a grass, especially if you like your stripes. Most people do enjoy that. So yeah, I'm pleased with how it's looking, how it's come across, and how everything's kind of just as it needs to be. I'll show you the front next, and this is the results from the front after verticutting and cutting down into 23mm in here as well. It feels very nice and firm underfoot as I'm walking through it here, and it produces some lovely rich stripes in the lawn, as you can see. So just trying to figure out how I do this section here. I think this is just working perfect. So a normal stripe along here, and then a sort of 3/4 on this bit, and then a 1/4 on that bit. Seems to work okay. It gives me even stripes across the lawn. So this is the finished results. I also edged this as well, so it's all been cut, neatened up, and it looks good. Luckily no POA in this lawn. This is all completely free of weeds, really. There's really not much in here at all, and you can see it's just a nice healthy looking lawn. Just a wee bit of stuff to do over here, just to try and bring this up, but this is in shade a lot of the time, so just need to encourage a little bit more growth with some liquid feeds and granular feeds, etc. But it's looking okay, and that's me for today. I'm just now going to have to order some more liquid and granulated feeds, which I'll be getting just to dial this up for the summertime, and really take this into the even richer green as well. I hope you'll join me with that one. I'll just finish off just with a couple of nice little flowers at the front here, and the little pebbles in the centre, and then Cosmia, Salvia hot lips and Epirus, and then yeah, there's some weeds to be killed off and things, but that's eventually, if I ever get around to doing it, it's going to be a nice wee flower bed there, probably 2 high with a wooden flower bed, and that's going to contain some more lupins and foxgloves and everything to create a nice colour effect at the bottom here, and just neaten everything up. But you can see here it's looking really nice. The grass is nice and healthy. Lovely, beautiful grass, nice and firm soil underfoot, and it springs right back, which is good. There's plenty of water in that, but you can see that's how it looks now. Alright guys, catch you on the next one, and I hope you have a lovely day. Cheers.